I really don't understand how some outlets already have reviews for Dragon Ball FighterZ since last Monday, when the servers only went up last Friday. And then they claim in their reviews that there aren't enough game modes. Okay, games media. I know this review is late, but that's precisely the reason why. We needed to test the online, check out their lobby system now with all the features enabled, and not just review the story and the arcade mode. On the very basic level, we already knew what Dragon Ball FighterZ was gonna be. It's an easy game to understand. It's a 3-on-3 fighting game where you call in assists for attacks or swap characters on the fly. This being an Arc Systems game, you usually expect a ton of mechanics, but it's surprisingly simple compared to what they've done in the past. And in a way, it kinda had to be, because the Dragon Ball audience is so much bigger than anything they've dealt with before, so they are bringing a lot of people into the fighting game genre. And the game is very beginner friendly in many interesting ways. The inclusion of auto combos where players can just mash a button to make stuff happen, the super dash which at a press of a button easily dashes towards the opponent, and even the fact that at the base level most characters play roughly the same, with only a few moves to distinguish them, which could be seen as a positive or a negative depending on who you are, but once you get to a higher level, you'll notice that those subtle differences between characters will change a lot on your combos and even your playstyle in general. It's an easy game to get into, but fighting game experts will have enough material to dive into and have a great time discovering each character's strengths. Because this is a review, I feel obligated to talk about graphics and sound design, but it's also very obvious that this game is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the best looking games that I've ever played in my life, and the sound is also great, though the announcer during the fights can get a little bit annoying. You do learn to tune him out after some time. The soundtrack is fantastic. Not every song on the soundtrack is a killer hit, but there are definitely some killers out there. Let's dive into some game modes and what you can do with this game. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, once you log in, you'll land in a lobby like this. You can treat this as your main menu where you can access the different game modes of Dragon Ball FighterZ, while interacting with other players through customizable stamps with your unlockable avatar. Now the first mode we're going to talk about is Practice. Here you have the basic tutorial, the training mode, and combo challenges. Training mode is pretty robust. There's a lot you can tell your training dummy to do, so you can practice how to respond to different scenarios. You can also just set the dummy to CPU AI if you want it to be a little bit more unpredictable. You can set it to block follow-up attacks to make sure you're landing true combos, or you can ask it to just sit there and take a beating. You can also plug in a second controller if you want a friend to help you out with something a bit more specific, and there's enough information on screen to build and optimize your combos over time. And then, still on the practice menu, we have the combo challenges, where each character has 10 combos for you to complete. And once you complete them all, you get some in-game currency. There are a few challenging combos, but this game mode was very disappointing. Given the previous work from Arc System Games, I've always praised how Arc Systems was able to start from the very basics in the tutorial, and through combo challenges it was able to introduce players to tougher and tougher mechanics, stuff that only professionals use in real combat. Arc System Games is one of the best in the business at delivering these complete tutorials from low to high level, but they dropped the ball on this one. The game covers the basics. Some characters have a couple of challenging combos that might help you think or theorize about combo concepts, but they don't give you a lot of useful stuff for actual combat, so in the end how shallow it ended up being was a big letdown. Moving on to story mode, without any spoilers of course, this game's story mode is quite original. The player is a character in the story, and they're able to take control of Dragon Ball characters and help them fight the enemies. Story-wise, it starts very slow. I was not a fan of the first arc at all. It was a very generic Dragon Ball story, which that's okay, I guess, but there's a lot of mystery that is introduced and none of it is answered. None of the questions I had were answered in Arc 1. Eventually those answers came in Acts 2 and 3, but also came a lot of confusion too, because even though there are 3 arcs to the story, it feels like all 3 of them are telling the same story, but events are happening differently in each one of them. So it's almost like they're telling the same story 3 times, but each story is sort of a different version, almost like a parallel universe. They never acknowledge this, they never explain it, and it ended up being a little bit confusing. Now, there are moments, especially in Acts 2 and 3, that in my opinion, are worth watching, but there's also a lot of padding. The story overstays its welcome. There are several chapters where the story just doesn't move forward at all, and it feels like those chapters are only there to make story mode feel longer, or because they added some RPG mechanics and they needed more time for your character to level up, which I guess is a good segue to talk about gameplay. Gameplay wise, you move your character around this map. You choose which path to take until you fight a boss at the end. Each battle gives you different rewards, like bonus XP for your characters or player skills that you can equip that buff your entire team. And you can choose to go straight to the boss or clear the entire board, because despite there being a limited number of turns, it's never really a problem. The main problem with story mode is the difficulty, which is mind-numbingly easy. Fights are not challenging at all, there's no sense of danger, and with story having a lot of padding, it was sometimes hard to find the motivation to keep playing. Even when you're severely outleveled by enemies and every time they attack they deal some massive damage to your character, being outleveled doesn't really matter if you can easily avoid being hit. It just takes longer for matches to conclude because you're not dealing as much damage as you should. For this reason, I found the story hard mode much more rewarding and fun to play, but that only unlocks after you beat the story on normal, which can take somewhere between 10 to 15 hours depending on how much you want to clear each map. In a way, the story mode was designed to be replayable, but because of these issues, I didn't really feel the urge to replay it. For as much as I love the game's mechanics and fighting system, if I'm not challenged by the AI, it just feels like I'm wasting my time. I will say though, they went all out with fan service. There's a lot of writing here. If you take specific characters together in a team, they will sometimes have these unique dialogue interactions, which can range from funny to super serious. And these were easily my favorite moments of story mode. These little interactions they wrote for these characters that never interact during the Dragon Ball anime or manga, and they are completely optional. You can totally miss most of them during your first playthrough. So if anything is gonna make me replay that story mode, is unlocking every single one of these optional scenes. Moving on to arcade mode, there's not a lot here. You start off with 3 different challenges, each one harder than the last, and once you beat their normal versions, you unlock their hard versions. So in total, you have 6 ladders to beat, and you also get a score at the end of each match based on your performance, which in turn gives you a score for your overall ladder. So I guess you could replay those ladders if you want a better score. The normal ladders can be a bit tougher than your typical story mode fight, but not that much harder. However, in hard mode, it gets insanely hard. Not only does the AI get better, their stats are also increased, so like a level 3 super can just obliterate one of your characters. So despite there not being a lot to arcade mode, the difficulty does make it very rewarding if you manage to beat it. Finally, while offline, you can also access local play, where you can play against a CPU or against a friend locally, or just set up a tournament if you have a group of friends. And with that, we move on to the online modes, where we have, first of all, the world match, where you can join ranked or casual online matches. As you win ranked matches, you'll gain battle points, which increase your rank, and if you lose matches, you'll lose battle points, decreasing your rank. The amount you win or lose will always depend on your opponent's rank, so if he is a lot higher than you, you might lose and still gain a few battle points. Now, I love the filters for matchmaking when you search for a match. They prevent a lot of laggy fights if you limit the connection strength of your opponent. If you feel like you should be at a higher rank because the fights are currently way too easy, you can set it to find stronger opponents so you can rank up faster, but of course the more limitations you have, the longer the matchmaking times will also be. But the game also allows you to hit that practice mode while looking for a match, which makes time go by a lot faster. There are a couple of other ways to play online against other players on casual matches that just pull from smaller player pools, like for instance the arena match, which only matches you with players that are present in that same lobby. And also at any time, any player can just create a ring match. Ring matches are this game's version of private lobbies. If a player approaches your ring, they can join you, or you can set a password so only your friends can join. Currently, these matches are experiencing some problems where players can't really join each other, which is something that I have no doubt will be fixed in the future, but this also seems like something that should not have been a problem in the first place, especially because there are 2 types of ring matches that you can create. One is normal ring matches, which is sort of just like a casual match, but the second one is the ring party match, where 3 players play against other 3 players, each one of them controlling one different character. Most people will never see this game mode, because if you set up a ring party match, you'll be very lucky if anyone joins you randomly, let alone 5 other people. And at the same time, no one's setting these game modes up, so it's hard to find someone random for you to just join. Even if there are lobbies dedicated to ring party matches, matches, no one's doing that in those lobbies. It's easy to understand the reasoning behind why this game mode is the way it is. They didn't want to split their player base in world matchmaking. But this is a bad solution because they end up splitting the player base anyway, because people are just waiting around in these rings trying to join each other. If you have 5 friends playing Dragon Ball FighterZ on the same platform, you might have fun with this game mode, but chances are you're never going to play it. Next, as far as progression goes, this is something that a lot of fighting games struggle to nail down because some people are in it for the ranked matches and that type of progression, you know, getting better, upping your rank. But this being Dragon Ball, they also want to cater to the casual fans too. So as far as progression goes, you can unlock 3 different characters, the Super Saiyan Blues and Android 21. The Blues are unlocked through Arcade Hard mode, which can be very challenging, but if you're not that skilled of a player, that's fine because you'll also unlock them after collecting enough in-game currency over time. Or if you pre-order the game, they're already unlocked, I guess. And the third character is unlocked after beating story mode, which will take some time, but it's not that hard. Also, all of them can be unlocked by purchasing them in the store. So if you don't like that progression, there's also that option. Other than these characters, the progression is all about the Z capsules, which are this game's loot boxes. There are no microtransactions, they are all earned with in-game currency, but honestly, if there were microtransactions, if you could put money into this game, it wouldn't even bother me. Everything you get in these capsules is purely cosmetic. You get colors for your characters in-game, you get backgrounds and phrases to customize your online player card, you get stamps to communicate with other players, and you get lobby characters. There can be duplicates, and if that happens, you'll get a special coin, which after you get 10 of those, you can use that to buy another type of loot box that guarantees you'll get something that you don't already have. Now, is all of this enough of a progression system? Is this a good progression system? Probably not. Not for the casual fans that will never get into fighting games anyway. And that's kind of how I feel about this game in general. Everyone who shit-talked fighters is not going to enjoy it. Outside of story mode, there's not enough here to grab that crowd. And they might even enjoy story mode, but is that enough to justify the full price? I seriously have my doubts. Fighting games have been evolving these last couple of years as far as content for single players go, and Dragon Ball FighterZ is decent in that regard, but not extraordinary. The players who will enjoy Dragon Ball FighterZ are the fighting game community and casual Dragon Ball fans waiting to make that jump. People that want to get deeper into the fighting system, that have the will to learn it and to get better in this competitive scene. Because what makes this game amazing is the online, your own progression, feeling like you're getting better at this game, mastering each character, and of course, your rank. That's what I've been enjoying in this game so far, and that's not for everyone, because fighting games are hard, and not everyone wants to put in the time to master something like this, and that's totally okay. I just hope this review has shown you what this game has to offer you if you're one of those players. Now, before we finish this review and score it, let me tell you about our scoring system. We use letters. F and E are reserved for bad games, D and C are reserved for okay or mediocre, and then B and A are reserved for the good games, green light on Metacritic. We chose the letters instead of numbers because numbers are way too objective for something as subjective as a review, so I feel like the letters are able to stay a bit more subjective, which represents our reviews a lot better. Personally, I can't help but feeling a little bit disappointed with the full release of Dragon Ball FighterZ, because the stuff that is good is stuff that we already knew and had already experienced. We knew coming into the game that the fighting system was awesome, the systems were fun, the gameplay is great, the visuals are amazing, but the stuff around the edges that we got to see around release let me down quite a bit. The replayable story didn't feel that replayable after all, there's not much to arcade mode, and this ring match system has brought nothing but problems so far, which ends up being a bummer for everyone who wanted to try out party mode. But I also say this having already played over 100 hours of the full release, and this is not counting the closed beta, the open beta, the Gamescom, the Lisbon Games Week. So there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that this game is awesome, but they did drop the ball on a lot of small details that altogether add up to this score.
I see you've gotten better at this, except for one fatal flaw. Do you know what that is? You don't? I'll tell you then. What you lack is a victory dance!
Thank you for watching our very first review here on TGN Anime. If you guys want to argue my score, I mean, feel free to do it, but it is my score and I'm not going to change it personally. But I would love to know if this review helped you in any way making a purchasing decision, or any feedback about my criticism being, you know, well-funded or not well-funded enough. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on that. Now, we have a lot of Dragon Ball FighterZ videos that we released over the last week. You can check out some character breakdowns here if you want to get better at those characters, or you can check out some combo challenges here. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.